So, and also like our plates are, the portions are distorted, and also there's a lot of starch. So a lot of starch, a lot of protein, less veg, or sometimes no veg at all. Yeah. And the simple way in which we should be eating is just like applying a simple plate model. Half our plate should be vegetables in different colors. I mean, we eat with our eyes. We know 7 colors is very synonymous with who we are as South Africans. So let's just think when we do our 7 colors, it should be an everyday thing. So more variety, the better on the plate in terms of the different vegetables and fruits that you actually put on a plate. So half of your plate needs to be that, and the 2 quarters that you have needs to be your protein and also your starch. And your protein doesn't always have to be meat, because plant proteins are also better because they also offer nutrients beyond just protein, like fiber, which is exceptional in terms of our gut health, because we know gut health has actually been proven to be something that we should be looking at, because our gut is our second brain. When we don't feel well, we also affect our mood. So ultimately I'll say, let's rethink our plate and ensure that our plate is actually balanced, and I think that is the start.
Welcome to Chefing Beyond the Kitchen. I'm your host, Morao. Join us for conversations with amazing people doing amazing things in food. Today I'm sitting down with corporate nutritionist Arthur Ramoroka, and we're going to have an interesting conversation about everything that he does. Welcome, Arthur.
Thank you for having me, Haul.
Thank you so much for making the time. So before we get into the meat of the conversation, I'm going to ask you some icebreakers just to get us in the mood.
Yeah.
So what did you have for breakfast?
I had tea, actually, fermented sorghum. It's such a staple in my household. Can't live without it.
A great answer for someone that cares about nutrition.
Yeah.
And then when is the last time you smiled, apart from today, and what made you smile?
Oh, I'm always smiling, actually. I mean, people close to me will tell you that I'm always smiling, I think, for me, because of just loving life, just being positive and just approaching life with kindness. Yeah, I think everything in my life currently just makes me smile because I just feel blessed.
That's amazing. That's amazing. What's your favorite thing right now?
My favorite thing right now is, I think I finally managed to get back into writing, something I struggled with in the last year because of the schedule. So I'm now able to put my thoughts and also just write thought leadership pieces as well, which is something that I enjoy. Yeah, writing is something that I just wake up in the morning and just use my creative brain.
Sounds like there's a book in there.
Well, I think we'll get to that.
I can't wait. I will be the first person in the first row at the book launch.
Thank you.
And then 3 people you would like to host for dinner, and why?
I've cooked for family and friends. And I think this question is important because, cooking, it's a form of love.
It is.
And also it bestows one with, some form of happiness because of the connections that you build, with the people that you are hosting. And I think given today's conversation, chefing beyond the kitchen, I think for me, I would want to host dinner for, 3 of my ex-bosses, because I feel like they contributed a lot into my career, especially early years of my career.
Amazing.
So Sharon, Connie, Nazneen, these women are powerhouses because they multiplied my talent in ways that I could have never imagined. And they were always there, very supportive. So yes, I would definitely like to host them for dinner. Yeah, because I just feel like they're great multipliers.
Sure, look at me wanting to cry. But that's such an amazing answer. Everybody always says a celebrity or someone high up that does what they do. But your ex-bosses, it just shows what a relationship you had with them, especially because they're not your bosses anymore.
Yeah, the interesting thing is that all of them are part of my life right now because they become very close friends. And yeah, I think it is about time I put myself through this challenge and connect to the 3 of them.
Yeah.
And so that we can just have conversations around where I am and just I think pay homage.
Yeah, and it says a lot about who you are and your character, especially that they are still in your life. Amazing. So as you know, this podcast is called Chefing Beyond the Kitchen. We aim to expose people to other careers that are still in food, but are not necessarily cooking in the traditional kitchen. So tell us, what is a corporate nutritionist? What do you do? What does your job entail? For someone that's never heard of it, what would you say it is?
Yeah, I think we all love food, right? And I think there's different professions that deal with food.
Yeah.
So for me as a corporate nutritionist, every day when I wake up is around, ultimately influencing people's health through nutrition. And so I'm involved in product development, product innovation, as well as communication. So when you go to the supermarket, walk through the aisles. So I contribute to the development of this food because I work with a team, incredible team of food developers to ensure that the food that is put out in the market is healthier. And ultimately, I think the communication is also important so that people can understand how what they eat actually affect their overall health and well-being. So that's really where I am as a corporate nutritionist in terms of my everyday job. There's a whole lot more things that I do, but I think simply put is around being involved in product development, ensuring that we have access to healthier and tastier food, more importantly.
And if you could run me through like a typical week for you, what would you be doing?
Typical week for me would be working with the teams in marketing teams, product development teams, going through projects that we want to launch, and also communication campaigns that we want to put out into the market, just to inspire people to lead healthier lives, just leveraging the nutrition knowledge and using applied nutrition to inform product development. So that's really what I do every day, having conversations with the people, working in a team setup, just coming up with amazing ideas and really looking at the current landscape of food and how we can influence it and also influence the future of food.
Amazing. So the question I've been dying to ask you, because the other day we had a dietitian on, and this is the question I asked her as well, what is the difference, would you say, between a dietitian and a nutritionist? Okay,
so the difference for me is that, both professionals in South Africa are required to be registered with the Health Professions Council of South Africa. So you have a registered dietitian, you have a registered nutritionist. So the scopes are a bit different, and also the universities are there that offer different programs, different. So dietitians typically work in a clinical environment, but the scope is more broader because they can also work in public health. But also nutritionists work in public health organizations. Just ultimately, I think both professions looking out to improve nutrition for the people and sustainable diets.
Absolutely. So speaking of, the various programs that exist for both professions, tell me about, how you got into this career, how you became who you became. Did you study? Take me back to how Arthur became this Arthur that I'm speaking to today.
Yeah, it's a long journey, and I think if I think about it, I've always found food and labels on food very fascinating. And I remember as a young boy, I would be sent to buy a loaf of bread. Like most of us would be sent at that time and going to the supermarket. And I remember one day coming back from the supermarket, looking at this label of bread, and I looked at terms like energy, fiber with keen curiosity. And I remember there was this brand of bread that actually also went further to explain the role of those nutrients in human health. I remember one said vitamin A is important for eye well-being and all that. And I remember writing that in a book, and I was very interested. And little did I know at that time that I would end up in a profession where I actually have the opportunity to empower people to understand how what they eat affects their overall health and well-being. And One day when I was in high school, I remember one of our teachers was giving a career talk, and he happened to mention dietetics, and I was very interested to know more about it. I remember going into the library and going into the encyclopedia, because then search engines were not a thing.
Google was not a thing.
Yes, and in the encyclopedia they had actually explained in detail what dietetics is all about, and you could become a dietitian, and the different job opportunities that are out there, and also just different universities that exist in South Africa that offer the program. And when I did matric, I remember writing to the universities requesting a prospectus for the study year. So I then went to study at the University of Limpopo. Yes, and it was a very nice time because I enjoyed my time at the university, and I also enjoyed the program itself. And I then got qualified, and I went to work in hospitals as a dietitian back in the days.
Oh, so you're a qualified dietitian.
Yes.
So how do you go from that to being a corporate nutritionist?
So I think when I worked in hospitals back in the days, I got to a point where I needed to rethink in terms of where I needed to be in the future, as one would at some point in their career, because the base qualification gives you the skills required to find employment, but you then have to get into a space where you now find your interest and passion.
True.
And I enrolled for different programs. I remember I did marketing at some point, and because at that time I was still not sure what I wanted to do. And I think for me the lesson there was that clarity sometimes doesn't come right away. We have to be patient with ourselves in terms of our development and where we need to go into the future.
Yeah.
And as I was going through all these different programs, I remember I got a call from one of the food companies in South Africa. It was an amazing opportunity because it then allowed me to go into the consumer space where now I would actually work with food. But at that time I started dealing with complaints and also advising people who would call in and say, I want to know more about this product.
Yeah, what's in it? Are they vitamins?
Yes.
The fiber?
Yes. So I was talking to people using traditional forms of communications, telephone, emails, but also digital platforms like Facebook at the time, and Instagram was not a thing. So that's how I actually managed to go into the food space. And at that time, I actually got to find my passion, because now I realize that I like listening to people, and because now I understand what people actually want, the kind of food they eat, and also just understanding the whole value chain around food. So that's how I actually got to get into the space of working through nutrition and wellness and the space of food, and becoming the corporate nutritionist ultimately.
Yeah, so you are a really important person in that process, because I think the challenge is that consumers don't always know what's in the product. Is this actually good for me? I mean, many products make many claims, and you're the person that's delivering the message that, no, this is actually good for you and this is why.
Yeah, because my day-to-day job is also around looking at the claims that we ultimately make, because the claims need to obviously be valid, they need to be responsible, they need to obviously respect sustainable diets, so that also the information that is out there when people are interacting with the product at shelf and making decisions, they are actually informed and are not misled. So I can be actually responsible.
Yeah, and then you also do a lot of work in front of the camera.
Yeah.
So you'll recognize him from a cooking show. Tell me about your role there as a judge.
So my role as a judge there, it's pretty much around using myself as a vessel again, to inspire people to lead healthier and happier lives. The cooking show is about, showing South Africans how easy it is to actually change our eating habits one plate at a time. So my role is really around saying, how can nutrition and food interact in a more simple way, in a quintessentially South African way? Because because, food is emotive. Food is part of our identity, our culture, our heritage. So how do we use food that people actually eat every day and inspire them so that they can create something that is better for themselves and their families?
So as a nutritionist, if you could change one thing about the way we generally eat as South Africans, to make us healthier, to make us better, to make how we eat better, what would that thing be?
I mean, as South Africans, say tandi injama. Yo, guys.
We eat meat all day, every day.
So, and also like our plates are, the portions are distorted, and also there's a lot of starch. So a lot of starch, a lot of protein, less veg, or sometimes no veg at all. Yeah. And the simple way in which we should be eating is just like applying a simple plate model. Half our plate should be vegetables in different colors. I mean, we eat with our eyes. We know 7 colors is very synonymous with who we are as South Africans. So let's just think when we do our 7 colors, it should be an everyday thing. So more variety, the better on the plate in terms of the different vegetables and fruits that you actually put on a plate. So half of your plate needs to be that, and the 2 quarters that you have needs to be your protein and also your starch. And your protein doesn't always have to be meat, because plant proteins are also better because they also offer nutrients beyond just protein, like fiber, which is exceptional in terms of our gut health, because we know gut health has actually been proven to be something that we should be looking at, because our gut is our second brain. When we don't feel well, we also affect our mood. So ultimately, I'll say, let's rethink our plate and ensure that our plate is actually balanced, and I think that is the start.
And is that how you eat every day?
That's how I try to eat, and I always say to people that I try to eat almost 30 different types of plants a week, and they're like, how do you achieve
30?
that? 30, yes.
Okay, name for me 30 different vegetables a week.
And I think people, when we talk about plants, they immediately think vegetables. And I'm always like, sorghum. I mentioned sorghum when I got here. It's a plant. Yeah. Oats, it's a plant.
Yeah, beans
maize,
and legumes.
Maize meal, it's a plant.
Yeah.
Rice is a plant. Beans and legumes are a plant. Vegetables are a plant. So you'd find that you can easily get to 30 without actually noticing that I'm actually eating 30 different types of plants a week. Because when you do that, you're increasing the diversity of microorganisms that go into your gut. And in that way, it's easier for you to get your energy levels, the amount of nutrients you get, because you have this array of nutrients from different types of plants that you're getting. So it's quite easy, and I'm putting a challenge to you as well.
I'm going to count today how many different plants I'm having. Yeah, I think the challenge is that as South Africans, like you said, we center so much the protein, because we love meat. We're a meat-eating nation. So we center it so much, and then everything else is almost an afterthought, which isn't great. Yeah, we'll do better. We will do
Definitely.
Better. So like I said, we have spoken about your education, that you are a registered dietitian. What would you say, I guess the question I'm trying to ask is, what really is the difference between what you do as a corporate nutritionist and what a nutritionist does? Or is the two the same?
Well, because I'm in a food and beverage company, so then I'll be involved.
Are you allowed to say which one?
Yes, I think I can, because it's well known in the country, and many of the brands that people consume every day. So I work for Tiger Brands. So
that's cool, and all of those beautiful products.
Yes, and I think I can claim that I'm one of the leading voices of nutrition, health, and wellness in South Africa, because
you actually are.
If you open your cupboards, you find that there is a brand from Tiger Brands that you're actually consuming. So we are obviously trying to make sure that we help people eat better every day as they buy, Tiger Brands products. So what I do is obviously working on food to influence the current and future diets. What a nutritionist would do, some would work in a public health organization.
Yeah.
So, but pretty much really still around, developing policies that would drive, adoption of healthier diets. But ultimately, I think we all work collaboratively with one goal in mind, which is to obviously improve the nutrition outcomes of South Africa as a nation.
So you make South Africa healthier,
yes.
or you try to, so that we make better decisions for ourselves and our bodies.
Absolutely.
Because ultimately, it starts in the kitchen.
Yes.
It starts with getting the right product and then cooking it the right way and getting it into our bodies.
Exactly.
That's amazing. Tell me, how do you achieve work-life balance? Do you have work-life balance? And what does that look like?
I think for me, work-life balance is recognizing that I need to take breaks when I can, but also making sure that I do things that I enjoy, writing, reading, cooking, and just also meeting my fitness goals. Very important, because I think easily we could go with the busyness that life is giving to us, because I'm not saying it's quite easy to find balance and also disconnecting from what you do every day. Neither does it seem justified, I think, but because the times we live in, business has become a normal thing. But I think there is nothing like taking a pause and disconnecting and locating your balance.
What's your favorite part of what you do?
Favorite part of what I do is working with exceptional people and exceptional brands, and just meeting people in the food industry. And as much as I work for a food company, we meet, different people. The likes of you and everyone, just like everybody that is contributing into the entire food systems. And I think it's amazing.
And for someone that's looking at you and they follow your career and they love you, and they wonder, how do I get to be what Arthur is, to be a corporate nutritionist? How would you even navigate that way? What would your advice be?
I think for me, what is important is obviously doing a career choice and a career that you feel like you would enjoy. And not that I'm saying making a career decision is an easy thing. It's not always easy. Some of us end up in careers that we don't enjoy. But I think if you really know that dietetics is a space that you want to go into, I highly recommend it, because you will have lots and lots of fun. But I think it's a space that you need to also remember that, like any other profession, you need to create the canvas for yourself and your own goals in life, and saying, where do I want to go in terms of my future prospects? So I think for me, what I also did was to also further look at the programs that I could actually do in terms of my studies, so that I can broaden my horizons. Because I also went, after my studies, I did marketing. I then realized that I had a skills gap that I needed to close, because I work in food and beverage. So I did my master's in food science and innovation, so that now the conversations that I have with the product development team are quite easier because of my knowledge in food science as well as in innovation. But I also went further to study consumer science and sensory science, because we work with people every day and people buy products. We need to understand what people are looking for, the kind of food preferences they want, the consumption patterns and dietary patterns in South Africa. But also because, as much as I do nutrition, we work with food. And earlier I said food is emotive. So sensory science is a discipline that allowed me to understand how nutrition and taste and, just whole sensory perceptions around food is important, because we eat with our eyes, of course, but also taste is an important passport factor. Because as much as we say that food needs to be healthier, ultimately taste drives. Food needs to be tastier and healthier. So finding that sweet spot for me was quite key, and that's why I had to go and study all these different programs, so that I can ultimately, with conviction, say that market, I understand consumers, I understand food, and yeah, I just want to ensure that what I do every day is impactful and is helping, people, with the decisions they make easier and understandable.
Yeah, and then speaking of, the whole sensory experience, it's also hearing, because I can imagine the crunch of the letters,
yes.
All of those textures, they mean something in that eating experience. So amazing.
Yeah.
I'm so impressed by people that think to close all the knowledge gaps, all the skill gaps, and continue to seek information and add to what they know and add to the body of knowledge actually that's out there. So I'm so very impressed with that.
Thank you.
It's easy for someone to say, oh, I'm already qualified. I'm a dietitian, I have my degree and my qualification. But for you to seek out marketing and all those functions must make you such a great team player.
Yeah, because for me, I think in the rapidly changing environment and the world, we have to adapt and reinvent, and that's why we always have to find things that we can do to help, add to the knowledge that we have, because the base qualification just gives us the skills required,
like you say, base qualification
to get employment, but ultimately we need to find all these things. And sometimes for other people, it may not be through, studying something, maybe experience-based, because on the job is also important.
True.
And, your approach and how you work with the people, just learning from people. It's also important. And I think for me, if I think about one advice that I would give, is that something that I learned early in my career, because when I finished school and I went to work in hospitals, I had this self-heightened pressure, to impress and to apply what I learned in school. But I quickly realized that I should generally just demonstrate my abilities, curiosity, and just like eagerness to learn, because there's already people that know a lot. So things that I didn't understand, I knew that I needed to, approach people that were already there so that I can learn from them. Because true humility, I think, is remaining teachable regardless of how much you know. And I think also what I learned is that we need to extend ourselves with kindness to other people wherever we find ourselves. Because when you work with people, especially what I experienced myself, is that the people that you meet are great contributors into your career. I remember there would be people that would give me advice or feedback after I delivered a presentation or a project that I worked on, and just saying that next time improve there and there, and also just give me reassurance sometimes where I've doubted myself, just to say, you've done exceptionally well. I think just being willing to learn and being kind to people, we broaden and the spaces, and just allowing ourselves to meet the people, movers and shakers in the food industry. And I think it's quite important.
Yeah, and I think one of the common threads with everyone that's sat on that chair is relationships. So fostering relationships with those key people, but also just being a good person will get you so much further in your career.
Absolutely.
And I'm enjoying hearing that.
Yeah, and I have also the second thing that I just can think of, which I think was something that I had in my toolbox also, was just going above and beyond and applying myself, no matter how small the opportunity was. Yeah. I mean, it's through that kind of attitude and act of service that you get recognized. When you think nobody is watching, that's when your recognition actually comes. Because I remember when I joined corporates and I started small, and I would sit behind a phone and wait for people to call, either to complain or to seek advice on a particular product. I still applied myself, because I would deal with people who are unhappy, mothers who were unhappy about certain products they bought, and they would scream at me, but I humbled myself. And I think what I learned there is that you need to commit and serve, because there I learned that, you could change somebody's experience into a more positive one. So it's always amazing to have humility. I think it's always amazing to apply yourself and go out above and beyond, and just to really, apply and commit yourself into everything that you do. And I think you will go a long way, and it will just open many doors for you.
I'm really impressed by that attitude, that whatever task, no matter how small, it's leading you somewhere, and every door opens into another and opens into another. That's amazing advice. What would you say has been challenges along the way?
Yeah, as we navigate life and career life, life also happens in our personal space. And I think for me, it's just thinking, all the studies that I have done, especially in my early career, I did dietetics at some point, I'm like, is it the right career? But just reminding myself also why I went into that space was quite key for me, because sometimes when you look at how things are progressing in your life, you're like, I have a timeline for myself and goals that I've set for myself. Am I achieving them within the time frame that I have for myself? And I think, sometimes we need to be patient with ourselves and patient with our growth, because things don't always evolve and happen in our own times, right? So I think my challenges would be remaining motivated all the time, and just understanding that certain opportunities would just happen as they come, and fortuitously I may be somewhere, maybe it's not the right space for me, and sometimes in life just throws you to a space where actually you are where you needed to be, and things will just open, and everything you touch will turn into gold.
Amazing. And everything you touch does turn into gold. Tell me about that moment where you just knew, I'm at the right place. It could be when you worked on this project, or when you saw the outcome of this project, or when you got into whatever office and you just felt like, okay, Arthur, this is where I should be. Or I don't want to say I'm a master at what I do, but really there comes that moment in a career where you feel like, okay,
I've arrived.
I'm here now. I'm here. This is it.
I think for me, having worked with many brands and many organizations, there could be a lot of projects that I can mention. But I think if I think about where I am now in terms of one of the opportunities that I had never thought I would have in my life is being a judge on a cooking show. Because I remember when I was told that I needed to be on the show, the imposter syndrome got to me. So like, am I good enough? I'm just a regular guy. I'm always in the office. I'm working with the teams, but I never thought I would be on screen, because I never saw myself in that space. But it goes back to the point that I said, people are always looking. Yes, people
absolutely.
are always looking. And so when I went into that space, very unfamiliar, and it actually allowed me to push beyond my capability borders, because I had to learn. I had to go into a space that I never knew I could do, and just embrace it. If I look at season 1, now we're on season 3. If I look at the tapes from season 1, I'm like, oh my goodness, is that me? But I am now embracing the growth that came with it, and seeing where I am now and what the show did in terms of my career, and also just learning from the people that I worked with, and the camaraderie in terms of the relationships that I've built, and just learning new things into the space of food has been very exceptional.
And you are a viewer favorite, I must tell you. You are a firm favorite. So we are happy that you took on that challenge of being in front of the camera. So with so much success under your belt, what else is there that you want to do? What's the next frontier that you want to conquer? It's always a very challenging one, because we always
are looking at new things to do, new things to keep ourselves busy and motivated and try different things. And I mean, throughout there are learnings and there are failures along the way. But I think for me right now, earlier I said I went back into writing, something that I've always wanted to do. And because of where I am and the relationship I have with food, the relationship with food is quite a complex one for a lot of people. Because food is, it's something which is part of our DNA, right? And typically the relationship we develop is from a young age, right? During our formative years, through our transformative years, our teenage years and all that. And sometimes we can have a bad or a healthy relationship with food, and it's not easy. And what I realize these days with people is that now people are realizing that they have the power to actually use food, to either change their lives and all that. And for me, the space I'm in now and sort of what I want to do into the future and also what I'm writing is around saying we are Africans and we need to think about our culture and how our culture influences what we eat. And also me as a nutritionist, nutrition is not simple for many reasons, because food being emotive. And for me, it's around how do I, validate and reinforce and reassure people that, there's nothing wrong with the African food.
Yes.
And
Merogo.
yes, bohobe, because if you think about many people who say that, I went into this diet, the first thing they cut is bohobe. And I'm like, why? I'm like, why do we do that? And I think it's because when we don't have the knowledge, we can't truly make informed decisions.
Yeah.
And that's where I am right now. And I'm like, you know what? I need to have something that I put out there for South Africans and really, preserving our culture and our food and the space of nutrition for us as Africans, and saying how can we eat better using the food we grew up eating, hodu, like muroho wa tepe, how do we influence that? And also just maotwana and all that, how do we eat better every day using the food that we know? Because we become so westernized. When we think about a healthy food, if you search, you find blueberries.
The quinoa,
and
things that we don't eat.
And all that. So I'm in that space right now, and it's an exciting space for me because I'm just like, let's be Africans because that's who we are, and make nutrition really culturally sensitive.
That is so exciting to me. I can't wait to see how that will actually come alive. And I'm excited as you continue to really influence and inform people so that we close those knowledge gaps, and as a nation we can take better care of ourselves by taking care of what's on our plate.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for making the time to have this conversation with us.
Thank you.
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it myself. It actually just made me reflect on my career and things that I've done and also where I want to go. So it's always good to take a pause and think about those things. And thanks for having me.
Incredible. Thank you so much. And I'll see you on the next episode. This has been Chefing Beyond the Kitchen. Hope you enjoyed this conversation. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.